description of the story itself, there are reviews, a long list of reviews on the books. He spends days trying to find out who they belong to, who he had sex with. He has no memory, recollection of what happened the night before. Hey, it's Renee and welcome back to my channel. Today is booktube day, so today I'm going to be talking about the 2015 reading challenge, which is a challenge where you read 52 books for the year. Now each week has a specific theme and you choose a book based on the theme for the week. Week 8 has just ended, it ends today, and so I am going to review the books that I've read for the last 2 weeks. I have done reviews for the previous weeks and I will leave the links to those on the video or in the comments so you can access them and you can follow up. The theme for week 7 was a book with non-human characters. For that week I chose a book called The Fisherman's Son by Marilyn Peake. It's a trilogy and I read book 1. Now this story is about a little boy, a young boy named Wiley O'Mara. He lost his mom died, his father is an alcoholic, and he went to an Asian city at the bottom of the ocean, and he came back home to his poor village with a group of young boys who were living in the Asian city, protected by a magic bubble that a dolphin had placed around the children. And this magical dolphin could read their minds and talk to them and transporting them and teaching them about what they were supposed to do to help the poor city to become like the Asian city, because there was no reason why. I think that's why I didn't like this book. There was no reason why. It was just a flat out story with absolutely no reasoning behind it. Now, it was written for it is a middle grade fantasy, so I am not the target audience, even though the reviews had said it was a good read for younger and older readers. It's not. It's not a bad story, but it's a bad read. Now the non-human characters in this story are the 2 magical dolphins and a fire dragon that lived at the bottom of the sea, and there are mystical or magical apparitions that appear to the young boys when they put their magical rings into the river or into the lake or the sea or whatever it is. And there is a magical fish that protects a key to a library that is at the bottom of the sea. So those are the non-human characters in this book, which is why I chose this book for this week. Now on Goodreads, the description is fairly simple. It doesn't give much insight about the book it just tells you the basic story of what the book is about. But under the description of the story itself, there are reviews, a long list of reviews on the books, and they're all positive, raving reviews about this story and the author, and I got a bit suspicious after seeing that part before I read the book, of course, because it was just too good. The reviews were just too good. And then when I read the reader's review on Goodreads, it was horrible. So I kinda should have known what I was getting into and just didn't. I shouldn't have bothered to read the book. I wish I didn't read the book. I feel like I wasted a ton of time reading it. Not a ton of time. I feel like I wasted time reading it because it was such a poorly written story. It had no depth, it had no substance to it. Every detail in the book, every description that she writes in the book, it just goes on and on and on. She describes stalactites and stalagmites in the caves for about 3-4 pages, and how it glistens and how it shimmers and how it's like pearls and how it's this and yada yada. It was just too much. She stretches out the description forever unnecessarily, and it gets irritating. It's annoying having to read all of that over and over again because she doesn't describe it just once. Oh no, that is not enough. She describes it the same thing 2, 3, 4 times in the one story, and it's a short story. Now there are parts, specific parts about this book that I jotted down that I really did not like, that just didn't make any sense. Even if I were a middle grader or a primary school student or a young child just reading this book, to me it still wouldn't have made much sense, because Wiley had gone into a cave, and when he went into this cave he started seeing visions of what his village could be like, which is a mixture of what it is now and what the ancient city was like. And in his vision he saw people around that he knew, that he recognized, and there was one particular person that he seemed familiar with, he thought was very familiar. He had, this man had sounded like his father, and he looked at him and he didn't, there was no connection. If you see someone, if you meet someone who sounds like your father, is acting like your father, and you look in his face and you don't recognize that he is your father, then what is happening? I can't make that connection. In his actual life, his father is an alcoholic, but there must have been something that could make you look at his face and say, oh yeah, it's my dad, it's my sober dad. I've never seen him like this in a long time. He can't look that different. I gave this 2 stars on Goodreads. I wouldn't recommend it. Next story, which is a better story. The theme for week number 8 was a funny book, and I chose a short book. It was on my Kindle. Again, both these books are Kindle editions, and I chose Lipstick and Knickers by Rosen Treventic. Now, Lipstick and Knickers is a short story. It's about a man who wakes up with a hangover. He was partying all night. He woke up and found knickers and lipstick in his apartment and ensuite, and he spends days trying to find out who they belong to, who he had sex with. He has no memory, recollection of what happened the night before, and he wants to return the knickers and lipstick before his girlfriend finds out that he cheated on her, and he doesn't know who he cheated on her with. It was a house party, so he knew the people, he knew the women who were at the party, and he goes around to them one by one, asking them indirectly at first, asking them if he had sex with them, and asking the women around him, especially his best friend who he loves, but he's not as in love with her as he is with his girlfriend. He really loves his girlfriend, and it is very simplistic humor. It's not side-splitting laughter kind of humor. It's just a light, funny read. That was it for week 7 and 8. Now for the next 2 weeks, for week 9 is a book written by a female author, and for that week I am going to be reading Candle in the Darkness by Lynn Austin. It is a Christian fiction. It's based in the Civil War years. So far I've only read the prologue, and I'm intrigued. I'm interested to read the rest of it. I was kind of on the fence about the Christian fiction story because a lot of the other Christian fictions that I have read, they turn out to be so sappy and so stereotypical, which I really don't like, because there's so much more to Christianity than the stereotypical view of what I see in most of these novels. And for week 10 is a mystery or a thriller, and for that week I chose Amador Lockdown by Coral Russell. Again, I have not read much reviews on this book. I think reading a lot of the reviews spoils the book for me, because then I go in expecting to see what other people have seen and written about in their reviews. So I personally don't like reading a lot of reviews before I read the book. Are you like that? Do you read a lot of the reviews before you read the book, or do you just go in with absolutely no assumptions about the book and see what becomes of it? That is it for this week. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. And as I said before, you can see my previous videos in the series. I will be linking them in the description and on the video. And please remember to subscribe, And like, I will see you around later. Child is just obsessed with becoming king. He's obsessed with ruling over his siblings. He tortures them, he tries to kill them. One ended up with his legs being crushed under a car because he was just an evil child.